Welcome back, everybody. Thanks so much for joining me today for the second or third video of the channel. We're now well into our interviews. Today we have Sarah. She is the face behind Treasures Around Us, and she's an author, a poet, a mental health advocate, so much more. Her and I, it's lovely when we get to chat. We don't get to do it too often anymore, so it was nice that we had some time to sit down together. So without further ado, Sarah, how are you?
I am wonderful, my friend. How are you? And you're right, it has been a while.
It has. I was thinking about it, when we were getting ready to record, and I was like, man, how long has it been? Like it
Hmm.
has to have been at least a year or so. And I'm like, wow,
And
time.
look,
I don't know where it goes.
and look at how we have evolved. You
Exactly.
have a
It's
new hat.
yes. This is one of my favorites actually. I only wear it for these kinds of things, to be honest. And then it goes back up on the wall. Um, for those who don't know you, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. My name is Sarah Klaiber, and you described it perfectly. I am the creator and founder of Treasures Around Us. The mission of Treasures Around Us is supporting positive mental health through the connection between appreciation and happiness. So, to put it simply, look at the small things to avoid those ugly things that
Right.
come our way. But encompassed in that, or planted within that, are two children's books, Treasures and Beautiful You, focusing on children's mental health and teaching our little ones how to do exactly what I had just said, appreciate the little things around them when they had some thoughts that they did not welcome, and also appreciating the things about them and basically being able to say my differences are cool and not something to be ashamed of. My personal memoir was published in a book called The Power to Rise Above. That is a compilation of 30 women from across the globe that shared their personal stories of triumph. And that's probably the one that I am the most proud of. So when I'm not at the day job, I'm writing, I'm creating content, and I'm trying to make the world a better place.
Are you? For those who don't know, you actually used to. I don't know if you're doing it again yet, but you used to take your children's books and talk to kids at schools
Yes,
with those. Are you back to doing that?
I am trying. COVID obviously put a complete halt to that. I was gaining some really great momentum through, doing a visit and then getting a testimony from an educator or, a teacher or superintendent. I was really starting to gain some momentum where people were actually reaching out to me. And then unfortunately COVID happened, and I started to, pound the phone again with the same message that I'm available to come and do author visits and add to a school's mental health curriculum, but it's just been a little slower getting back into it than I'd hoped for. There's a lot of budget issues, and even though it really is just about the message, I just need to make enough to pay for taking the day off of the day job work. But yeah, I'm struggling with that. If anybody out there would like an author visit, I can do it virtually too,
Because
because
it
I
seems
just love being with the little ones.
right, and it seems like unfortunately that's kind of not just with things like that, but that just seems to be the way the world has kind of charted itself after
Mhm.
COVID. It kind of left us with um, a lot of questions and a lot of gaps and a lot of heartbreak
Right.
in the wake, which is a whole nother thing to deal with in and of itself. Is that where exactly did the name Treasures Around Us come from? Was it kind of that whole you need to look for the little things, or how did that come to you?
It started with a poem. So after, and you know the story, but I can't assume that your audience does. So after I crawled away from what I refer to as my rock bottom moment, I was forced to look at things with a lot more clarity. I made the very important decision to stop masking my symptoms of depression with just bad things. And I was forced to just start to live my life with a clear mind. And one release that I substituted with was bringing back my writing and my creativity as an outlet. And before this moment, there was a poem that I wrote for my children that I called Treasures. It was just looking at the small things and realizing that there are treasures around us every day. You don't need a shovel to find a treasure. You've heard me say that one
Right.
as well. And so, although the name of the poem, which was now the book, was called Treasures, I just expanded and made the mission Treasures Around Us. And then it was actually my husband, when I was thinking of when I actually had to sign a book for the first time as a new author, I said, as a new published author, I said, what do I say besides my name? And out of nowhere, he just said, "You are a treasure." And I was like, that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah. So he's the one that actually came up. When you hear me say "you are a treasure," I can't take credit for that one.
I actually, I don't think you've told me that one before, and we've been doing this a long time.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. I love that because it shows that he cares, and he's invested in what you're trying to do.
He's really good with the one-liners. Like, I like, and I think what happens with me is that, I pride myself on being the wordsmith, and I'm
Right.
the one that comes up with the words, and I think I overthink it because I expect brilliance to come, and he's very witty, and he is really, really good with the one-liners. And then I look at him, I'm like, well, that's my job, but okay, good job.
We ought to give him his own book of one-liners then.
Yes.
Maybe see what that does.
Well, there might be a different rating on that one. I must say.
Well, the more you go around the world, the more things you find.
You're right. You're right.
You've always been a big advocate for mental health and speaking on what you're feeling. Kind of, what made you want to, how do I put, like, jump out of your shell and be like, this is my story, this is what I've experienced, and kind of start taking that to the masses, so to speak?
Yeah, that's also very easy, and the answer to that also stems from, just that slap in the face moment, that I needed to change my life, not just for me, but for the people around me. So there, it was a struggle. I mean, when you are free from substance and masking, the pain that you have when you struggle with mental illness it's like right there.
Yeah.
It's live and it lives with you, and there's no band-aids or blankets to put over it. So I just had to look for other natural ways, and I'm not sure if somebody would consider this natural, but I started to spend some time on social media, and I started to research natural ways to fight depression, natural forms of coping mechanisms. And as well as I do, when you start researching things, all of a sudden it's up in your feed. I'm
Yep.
constantly reminded of how old I am, what I'm going through, and like I'm not researching that anymore. But what I was new to the Instagram platform, and as well as I do, Instagram it's more about making connections more than Facebook. Right. in the other platforms. Instagram, you can format it to a community.
Exactly.
With Facebook, you kind of you're forced to.
You're at the mercy.
You're forced to have the work people and the family and the friends, and that's more of like a keep in touch. Let me be cryptic. I'm not mocking Facebook, but it's just a different way of communicating. And as I was, just on the gram, starting out as a stalker, I was like, check out this person. I really resonated with that. Look at this person talking about having depression and OCD. And I never knew about that coping skill. Maybe I'll try that next. And then I started commenting, and I would comment, "You are a treasure. thank you for sharing and supporting. That's what, whenever I resonated with something, I said, you are a treasure. Thank you for sharing and supporting. So then my own audience started growing. And I've never been a shy person. I've always been, I was in the drama club, I was in band, I was always reciting poetry. I've never been a shy person. And I thought to myself, my gosh, if these people are helping me and they're total strangers, I want to do the same thing. So I just started opening up and talking
Right.
and sharing things. And after that, I wanted people to know that I wasn't somebody that just woke up one day and say, I'm going to join the mental health community. I wanted them to know that I am real. I do have a story, and I wanted to create some authenticity to what I was saying. And that's when I decided to publish the memoir.
Right. Yeah, and it's a totally I would dare to say it's a totally different community now than it was back then for us. Because things were a lot different, a lot more open. There were a lot more of us, and I know I kind of faded off because I was just I came to a crossroads where it was, do I continue to do this and detriment more to myself, or do I step back, continue my own growth, and just kind of peel back from the community? And it was like I had to have a talk with my therapist, and I was like, look, I feel really guilty for getting rid of all this. I've made a lot of good friends, helped a lot of different people. Um, but honestly, I feel like if I'm to continue growing myself, I have to step back, and that came with a lot of, oh, you were just doing this to grow your page, you were just doing this, and I'm like, no, I wasn't. But it comes to a point, and that's with a lot of things in life. I found, the older I get, it's like, look, sometimes you have to let go of those friends. Sometimes you have to let go of that favorite food for your health, or whatever it may be. That there's
Right.
just it will suck and it will hurt for some things, but if you are invested in being your best self, that's something you just have to do.
I think it's okay for people like you and I, though, that are on platforms with a specific mission to be on these platforms. I'm not posting pictures of my dinner plate, and I'm not. Nothing against those that do, but I do want to grow the page. You want to know why? Because I want to hear more people. I want more people to hear my work. It wouldn't hurt
Right.
if somebody said, hey, you're a good poet or you're a good writer, and maybe something stems from that. I believe that you have to put yourself out there. But I've got a very specific point to prove, and I want to prove that social media can be a positive platform and that there is a power in numbers. So if somebody were to say to me, you just want to grow your page, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
to an extent, yeah. I think this is a lot of people too that I've found is that a lot of people who are making those comments just either A, have never been at that bottom, or
Right.
they just don't understand or want to understand, is what I've found. And as sad as that is, it's like, look, you can't try to force feed everybody. If they don't want to hear something, they don't want to hear it. If they don't want to change, well, nothing's going to happen until they decide they want to.
Right.
So it's, we can just be who we are, and if that does something, it does something.
Yeah, it's funny. Again, you know me, you know my content. You're one of my biggest fans, and I'm so grateful for you. I'm raw with anything that I
Mhm.
post. I mean, the only time I'm doing a second take is if I like sneeze or something. I don't even stop my cat from meowing anymore. I don't do the filters, first of all, because I really don't know how. And it's just raw. You get what you get
Right.
with me. I don't have any equipment. You're going to get an echo. You're going to get a train going by. But that's who I am. And, I'll open up and I'll see like just somebody sitting there and turning themselves into a Disney princess. And they've got like a million likes on like,
Yeah. It's funny that you say that too. That
what am I
you don't.
doing wrong? Is it
Right.
that easy?
No, that brings back a memory too. You said you're like, I don't edit anything. I don't do this. I don't have any fancy equipment. it brings me back to that one time we were trying to do an Instagram live together, and we tried. I swear, like 4 times, and each time we got like a little bit farther in, a few more minutes in, and then it would just
Yes.
stop. And so we'd have to
Yes.
stop and restart, and it
But
took
we
us like,
were live, so people actually were engaging.
yep.
And then we're like, okay, come back, come back.
It was like 4 times, and we're just like, if it doesn't work this time, we're just gonna do it another time.
Yes. Yes. And that is the power of determination, my friend, because look at you right now, Mr. Fancy Hat, Fancy YouTube.
I
Oh,
don't
how far we have come.
I don't know about fancy, but
You look fancy.
I do my best. It's definitely been, since we've met each other, it's been a lot of growing, a lot of
Mhm.
healing, a lot of self-reflection. It was time for me to stop putting others first and kind of be like, okay, look, you have X, Y, and Z as goals. What are you going to do about it?
Right.
And that's what I did. I just published, one of my poems got published in an anthology that released a couple months ago. My debut book is set for re-release next year. I just have another full-length novel that just went to the editors. So
Can't wait.
it's like, that getting picked up made me realize, like, look, okay, if you made this dream come true by working your ass off, what's next?
Mhm.
What can we do next?
Mhm.
So it kind of relit a fire, and then I'm like, okay, look, if we're gonna do YouTube, we need to start over again, do some reading, and do it right this time. And here we
Mhm.
are.
Yep.
So it, you know, I, it's definitely a journey, to say the least. The channel name is a prime example. It's The Adventures of Matt. This is an adventure. I'm just doing my best, and we're going to see what happens.
I love that.
So, let's talk poetry, because, like me, you're someone who has used and still uses their writing to kind of cope and heal and get things off the brain. Because both you and I know that when we let things sit and fester for too long, then it just kind of eats us and make things worse. But for us, being able to write that down, we can kind of pull that out of our brain and put it onto that paper, and get it out. So then it's one less thing kind of eating at us and bothering us.
Mhm.
Um, how would you say that your poetry has kind of helped you on your journey of growth?
Definitely reflection. It starts with a journal entry, and it starts with the mood, the happenings of the day, or maybe a memory that I want to relive, a goal that I have. But it starts with a journal entry, and then it just starts to flow. And sometimes, it is poetry, like it has a certain tempo.
Right.
Sometimes I find myself rhyming. Um, Sometimes it's just a bunch of sentences. Sometimes the flow, or the pace, if you will, is more of a spoken word. So it's just kind of there's never a plan to it.
Right.
There's never a plan other than the mood, I suppose. But I do have a goal, because the majority of my journaling takes place in the evening when I'm in wind down time.
Right.
So it's, for the most part, the last thing that I usually do before ending the day. And I'll never be able to make I'll never be able to stop the dark moments. I mean,
Right.
I still have very, very bad days, whether they were circumstantial or not. But I do have a goal. I always try to spin it. If I find myself going dark, I try my hardest to spin it into something positive. What did I learn from that moment? Or maybe it really wasn't so bad now that it's later in the day and I'm looking at things from a different angle. Because
Right.
what somebody that battles depression does not want to do is go to bed for the night with the last thing that they
No.
wrote down was a negative thought. So
Right.
I almost make it like a mind game to myself. And then, I some I read back, some I don't. And I do check in with most of them again to see if they could become something more like a
Right.
spoken word piece, or a piece that I want to read and publish on my channels.
I think too, one important thing that you said there is that, you go back to read to see what you were thinking in the moment. And I
Yep.
think that's important because at least I know for me, especially when my depression is creeping in or my anxiety or I'm just having more than a million things thrown at me, I cannot think clearly. So what I'm thinking at that moment, and then I look back on it later, I'm like, why were you so stressed out about that? Like
Right.
that was not a big deal.
Right.
Um, but at the time, with all of those things coming at you, it was a big deal. It
Hmm.
did seem like a big deal, um, because everything is kind of getting amplified two or three or four times.
Hmm.
Um, so I do like that because yes, some things you may not want to go back and reread and relive, but at the same time, some things you kind of get a feel for where your mind was at, and you're like, come on, like
Right.
that was nothing for you to fret about. Like this is manageable.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
I can definitely see both sides of that.
You're exactly right.
Um, the next real big thing that I want to talk about, which I'm really excited about because it is something that I've watched you grow and bring to fruition, and I've seen you posting pictures of you going around and getting folks on board, and it's your Rock for Hope.
Yep.
Can you share a little bit about that and kind of how that came about and how you've kind of successfully gotten the community to rally around that?
Yes. So, long story short, the relationship that began my partnership with AFSP, that stands for the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, locally here in Western New York. It started with this tattoo right here, the semicolon.
Mhm.
I was with a coworker at a work meeting, and I lifted up my cup of coffee, and he has the same tattoo. And for those of you that don't know, the semicolon tattoo represents somebody that is either struggling with or battling with depression or suicidal ideation or has been impacted. The semicolon to an author represents the pause and move on. If the author wants to end a sentence, they just use the period. But if there's more to come, they use the semicolon. So that's what that represents. This individual introduced me to who was then the chair of the foundation, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and it just started with me, asking for donations, starting my team, um, collecting donations, and attending the annual walk that takes place every year. And then one day I was discussing the details with a friend of mine who she herself was impacted by suicide. We just started putting some details together, and we looked at each other and said, I think maybe we have the components for an event. And we got a venue, we got a band, and we got some sponsors. And you'd be surprised. I just told you a few minutes ago, I've never been a shy person. What's somebody going to say to a woman that approaches them and says, would you like to donate to help people that have been impacted by suicide? I mean,
Right.
got a lot of no's, but the the look on the faces of some individuals when they just kind of ask about my story and why I'm passionate about it is just, they're like, wow. I'm like, yeah, you can talk about it. It's
Right.
okay. It's really okay. That's why they call it stigma. And we've just continued to grow. This coming summer will be our fourth year of Rock for Hope. And I'm proud to say that last year we raised over $15,000 for the local chapter.
Wow.
Hmm.
That's crazy because I remember um, seeing you post on Instagram for the very first one, and you're like, I don't remember who it was, but you were sitting there with the leader of the band, and you guys
Yep.
were making a little reel. You're like, hey, we're proud to join for this event and stuff. And I was like, okay, this is
Yeah.
this is going somewhere now. It's picking up.
Yep. I'm gonna give a plug to him. His name is Tim Britt, Tim Britt, and he's got original music on all of the platforms, Spotify, whatnot. So check out Tim Britt. He promised me from the very first Rock for Hope that he'd be in it till the end. So he's going to
That's
be with us
amazing.
again at number 4.
That's so amazing. I mean, you know, when you do things like that too, you see, you know, the genuineness of people come out,
Yep.
that you may not have even known, and you're like, wow, we may have met each other in passing or talked once on socials, and then you find out that you have all this stuff in common, and you're like, look, I want to do this. Hey, I'm in, and now you're on year 4 of doing this amazing event and raising money. That's just it's so crazy to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
It's a lot of work, but it does not feel like a job.
right,
It really, really is a lot of work. By the time that it's done, I'm exhausted. I need the break. But on the flip side of it, it's good work.
right.
It's good work.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. It's like if you surround yourself with the right team, with the right amount of like-minded individuals,
Hmm.
you can do a lot of things, and that's
Right.
just it's just living proof.
Right.
Like you guys, there was no organization. You guys were just like, hey, I want to do this. I want to do this. Let's put something together, and you're on year 4.
We're on year 4. Yep.
That is that is so
Thank you.
crazy. For those who are not able to attend that event, because I know, not everybody can get up to New York all the time. Are they able to donate online? Like, do you do online fundraisers
Yes.
also?
Yes. So the first of all, another plug, you would have to follow me on socials. So just it's at Treasures Around Us.
I
Exactly
will
how it's
have,
spelled.
yeah,
Treasures Around Us.
I will have all of her socials in the description too, guys. So all you have to do is just go down there and go to whichever platform that you so choose to go
Yeah.
on.
So the campaign always starts in May because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So you will always, in May, you will find out where the venue is, the date of the venue, and some details. And then from May until the event this year, it's going to be on August 2nd. Uh, we just, we have contests. We promote our sponsors. We do reminders about ticket sales, little sneak peeks of the baskets and what's going to be going on and all that. So each year there is a different link. So right now, if you went on to my team site, there wouldn't be the link because the campaign has passed for the year
Okay.
already. So the best thing anybody watching right now is follow me on the socials and watch for me in May to start to announce the campaign. And always, every time I do an announcement, there is a link to donate.
Right. Did you guys? I don't remember if I saw it correctly, but did you guys do some sort of auction or silent auction as well
Hmm.
at the
Yep.
event to kind of
Yeah.
help raise a little more money?
Oh, if you like basket raffles, this is the place to be. Yeah.
That's always a fun one too. Like anytime I go to events like that, it's like you never know what you're gonna get. Sometimes you can kind of peek into them, but then sometimes you're like, oh, all right, we're just gonna go down for the cause. Here's my
Yep.
wallet. Let's see what we get.
Yep. Yeah, it's fun. It's super, super fun. The music's great. The vibe is great. It's like looking around and watching people eat and drink and dance in the name of suicide. Like
Yeah.
there's nothing awkward about that. It's a celebration
No.
of community.
And I just think too, if you find that awkward or you're at all like disturbed by that, then your mind's just not in the right place.
Right.
Because it's all coming from love. We're coming out of a place of, hey, this needs to be talked about. This
Right.
needs to be shouted about. Let's do something. Let's do something to fix this. Let's do something to make sure this doesn't happen as frequently as it does. And for those who aren't aware, man, I am not even going to get into statistics because it is heavy and it's more than you think.
I will. Suicide went from the 12th leading cause of death to the 11th leading cause of death in 1 year. It's going in the wrong direction.
That is just that is
And the
insane.
numbers are getting those that died by suicide. The numbers are getting younger and younger.
That's just that is wrenching to think
Mhm.
about. It because and especially with it getting younger and younger, it's like I honestly want to say it has a lot to do with certain parts of social media and you know too much cyberbullying and people not being taught, hey, you don't have to listen to this, you don't have to deal with this, you can turn that off. you know um it's just that is sad.
Yeah.
um with winter in full swing now, pretty much in most of the world, uh what are some ways that you kind of find balance and deal with things? Because with wintertime, yes, it's going to vary depending on where you're at, but no matter where you're at, it's getting darker earlier. and it's getting colder, so you can't really, unless you're one who really loves cold, you're not
How
getting
about
outside
Buffalo, New
much.
York, Matt? How about Buffalo?
Yeah, you guys are a whole different kind of cold sometimes that I don't even want to experience. I've seen some Bills games in like 3 feet of snow, and I'm like, I'm out.
We pay people to shovel. People get paid to shovel the stadium so we can still have the games.
That's so crazy.
Yeah.
But how do you personally? How have you been able to? And I know this is probably an ongoing endeavor, but how do you find balance and peace and kind of cope with the darker months?
The first thing that I do every year, and is the fall, and as the time comes, is I try to prepare. And I'm going to admit to you, it hasn't worked yet. Every year I try to prepare. I know that it's coming. I know that I am at my worst because I already have depression. So let's add seasonal depression,
Right.
hormonal depression. Let's add all these other different forms of depression on top of the depression that I already have. I know it's coming. I know that the feelings aren't the end of the world. Another springtime will come, but it hasn't worked yet because I'm struggling right now. We are recording this at 4:35 and it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
So I still go for walks, even though it's dark. I'll still, if it's decent out, if I got to put an extra layer on and a hat, I grab my husband. We still go for walks.
Right.
Um, when it is nice out, I am an outside girl. So I try to give myself something to look forward to that will give me a sense of accomplishment. Like, for example, right now, my basement is awful. It's it's it is awful. There's just from my vendor shows and dust. I have a cat. It needs my basement needs about a week of attention. And so I'm not going to do my basement if it's 90 degrees out. So because
Right.
I'm a hippie. I like to feel dirt. I like to feel grounded, and I like to be outside as much as I can. So I try to project myself with things that'll give me a sense of accomplishment. Like
Right.
nobody looks forward to cleaning their basement, but I try to fast forward to how great it's going to feel when it's done.
Right.
Cleaning out a cupboard, a closet. And you know what? Giving myself permission to light a candle, put my favorite show on, and get the journal out before 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
These are the times where it's okay to enjoy some fuzzy socks in the fireplace too, because nobody is out. But it's harder to do. I always have to feel like I'm doing something to feel like worthy and accomplished. I gotta get a lot better on finding grace with allowing myself to chill out
Yeah,
a
I'm
little bit
I'm
too.
I'm the same way. It's like, I have the hardest time trying to sound weird to some people, but I have the hardest time trying to do nothing.
Right.
I feel like I beat myself up. I feel like I'm going insane if I'm just like watching an extra long movie or I'm not doing anything at all. I'm like, man, you got things you could be doing, even though in reality those things can wait.
Right.
But see, I know the feeling. It's definitely weird because it's for something for you right now as we're filming this, and for me, it's just a little after 3:30 and it's already pretty much almost dark. And so that's one thing that always kills me is I'm just like, ugh, great, because I like going out to the lake and sitting on my bench and having my coffee, and you know when I can't do that is when it gets real hard, when it starts to get dark, and I'm just like, ugh. I create pathways around my house, little walking obstacle courses, if you
Mhm.
will, just to kind of keep myself entertained and make sure I'm getting my steps.
And
And
go get some vitamin D. Pop a vitamin D.
yes,
Our bodies were made to have that regularly.
I've actually ordered. This is something I've recently just ordered. Is a sun lamp
Yep.
because I was like, okay, look, everybody's been recommending this for years. I'm like, nah, no, we don't need that. No, we don't need that. I'm like, okay, it's time to try something different. And just see what happens.
I'm going to check in with you on that because I had forgotten. I have heard of the sun lamp concept for a while, and I just forgot about it until now. I'm going to check in with you.
Yeah, I'm excited to see how it goes because, like I said, I've got a lot of tools under my belt and a lot of things that I know I can do and I can do well and that help. But at the same time, you can never have too many things.
Right.
And especially, like you said, for those of us who have, depression and things like that, it's worse because seasonal depression is a real thing, and it does get worse. And some people might be saying, well, how can you have a depression on top of depression? Well, it's because it's completely different.
Right.
It's affected by the dark, the light, the cold, the warm. So that's just basically think of it as adding triggers
Mm-hmm.
to things. So you're already dealing with whatever else you have on your plate, and now you're like, okay, now it's dark and I can't go outside when I normally want to go outside and have some escape in nature. And then you're like, oh well, I guess that coping skill is off the table. And so yeah, it's definitely can be brutal, that's for sure.
Sure can.
um
Sure can.
so would you say too, like I thought it was funny that you said cleaning your basement, because normally when you think of like deep cleaning things, you're like, oh, spring cleaning.
Yeah.
But I guess along the same lines too, what I was going to say is that by you doing that, and accomplishing that this winter, then come springtime, you're like, oh hey, my basement's clean, I don't have to do that, I can go straight to being outside,
Right.
and I don't have to
Till I
worry
start
about
till I start throwing stuff down there again and then say, what is wrong with you? Stop.
wait till wait till Rock of Hope gets closer and you're like,
That's it. That's it. That's what happens. I go through the busy stage. I mean, Rock for Hope, that's where I have literally a room for everything. I had a few pretty decent vendor events, and I just, throw it down there and ugh.
it becomes your catch-all for everything that you
Ugh.
don't want to look at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that kind of ties into, I remember one of our conversations we had that, speaking of dealing with things as they come in circumstances, you had actually had, I think it was a tree that fell through.
Straight through the house.
Yeah, through the house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that kind of brought that back when we were talking about it. It's like, you never know what to expect. You have
Yep.
to be able to prepare for multiple situations and kind of brace yourself for being able to cope in more than one environment,
Mm-hmm.
and with everything that comes with.
I am still triggered by pine cones.
I can imagine. I man, that just seems crazy to think about, because I see it. I see it happening to people, and I'm just like, oh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just sitting there watching TV, comes through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nope.
Yeah.
um, One other thing is that a lot of people don't know that, like, you you are able to provide just a smile and things for people when you do conversations, because I hopped into one. Wasn't even maybe a couple weeks ago.
Yes, my friend Karen.
Yes, I think you guys were actually talking about your book. Um, I had some spare time and I was on Instagram. I'm like, oh, she's live with somebody. It's been a long time. Let me pop in.
Yeah.
And you were able, and we just jumped off like we never missed a beat.
Yeah.
And the way you're able to connect with people and the conversation that you guys had, it's just, I think that adds to the way that you're so easily approachable, and it makes people want to talk to you, to want to share their story with you. And it's rare. And I know some people might hate me for saying that, but it is. You know, to be able to instantly feel like you can just say anything to somebody, and you don't even know them. You've never met them. You've never, you may have had conversations like us. We've never met each other,
Right.
but we've had dozens and dozens of conversations and studies and videos and interviews, and it's just seems like it's always a privilege to be able to have a conversation with you.
Oh, I appreciate that so much.
Of
Same to you, my
course,
friend.
it's because I think it's something to say about two people who share the same passion, and that they're able to bring different portions of the conversation from different aspects, because we suffer from different disorders. We, live in a different climate, so it's those things that you're able to bring a portion that I may not know about.
Hmm.
So before we end off today, did you prepare a poem, or do you have a poem that you want to share with people?
I did. You'd mentioned to me that you were going to be kind of talking about the seasonal stuff
Yes.
and the power of appreciation and all that. So I did bring, it's not necessarily in poetic format, but I thought a pretty appropriate closing to what we just got done discussing.
Right.
So this one I call a smile's accomplice. Those of us who believe that a happier world is possible must remember that emotions are contagious. We have a social responsibility to infect others with expression. We need to seek out our smiles, silent partners when the good vibes fall out of reach. Allow me to reference an angel as I explain. My grandma was soft spoken, except when she declared her annual first robin sighting. Once upon a time, that bird was nothing but an interruption to my juvenile priorities. But to her, that bird was a reason to share good news. Spring was near after another long buffalo winter. The memory prompts happiness. Therefore, the past is a smile's accomplice. Now, there's months between this moment and my next annual sighting, but knowing that it will happen makes me happy. Today, I am one moment closer to being a corny bearer of a positive message. Today, I choose to become a tradition maker. Today, I realize that Grandma taught me to appreciate the small things. Therefore, the present is a smile's accomplice. And in many, many years from now, the robin sighting will cause another generation's eye rolls. And I'll tell my grandma how much I appreciate her and apologize that my timing was off. Together, we will look down and realize that our best was good enough. The future is a smile's accomplice.
Wow. You always get me with those. I don't. It's always thought provoking. I'm just sitting here and I'm just like, oh, wow. Okay, you're gonna leave me with 40 things to think about tonight. um, it's just because I think that Robin thing. Oh my God, that's actually that will use like replace it with Cardinals, because that seems to be the first thing that I see around here, anyways.
Yeah.
With the changing of the seasons, because I don't know by what grace it happens, but every year, like right before spring weather starts, a cardinal will appear in the tree in between my building.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just like, after a while, you start to see it, and you're like, oh, they're just, it's just a fluke. It's just landing. We're going on 10 years
Uh-huh.
every year, and I'm just like, and the thing of a lot of people are annoyed by the sounds of birds chirping and stuff, but I will lay in bed early in the morning and just wait for it. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, they're awake.
Yep.
Uh, let's get up. Like, it's just, there's a gal that I talked to who writes music, and one of her lines is, when birds sing victory songs in the morning, it allows her to kind of, be like, okay, I'm here. I survived. It's a new day.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, that's kind of what that reminded me of. It's just sometimes we forget to be
We do.
thankful
We
for those.
forget until, it's too late and you find yourself in that moment saying, my God, why didn't I give my grandma just her 5 minutes to come downstairs and look at that robin that was the first sign of spring?
Right.
Because I couldn't get off my stupid video game, or I was fighting with a boyfriend, or just, being an immature brat.
Right.
But we are all immature brats at one time. And I think I've done enough praying that she knows that I regret it today. But I will tell you what, Matt, I look for that robin, the first sign of
Right.
spring. I look for it. And I actually document where it was and where I saw it.
And that's the cool thing, though. That's the beauty of nature. Like, I don't know how everybody doesn't see it, but I just see those things all over the place. For example, it may be wintertime and it may be cold, but down at one of my favorite spots to go, there's a lake probably 15 minutes from my house. And there's two places I normally go to sit. And this time of year, both sides of the outlet for the lake, the trees are just lined with bald eagles.
Oh, nice.
Like it is the most beautiful sight. And then you see, spring start to approach and they take off. And you may see one here and there, but literally hundreds of them. And it's one of those things. It's like, oh, winter's here when you see
Right.
all them sitting over there. But then at the same time, you're like, man, it's freezing. But at the same time, that sight is
Send me a
just
picture next time you see one. My husband loves eagles. It's his favorite animal. And that's
yes,
something that we don't, if we ever see one around here, it is very rare.
yeah. Because they literally both sides. I tried to get one. Was it on Wednesday? Um, but I could not get close enough to where it would actually show up good on my camera because my phone I was zoomed in so far that
Oh, that it
that
was like distorted a little?
it literally pixelated the branches of the tree, and so
Yeah.
it just looked like a grapevine because there's no leaves left. But yes, when I get some, I will send them over. You should
Yes,
see
I
it.
would love to see them.
There's people that this time of year, that's all the only reason they go out there. I kid you not, when I go out there this time of year, there's at least 2 or 3 cars that are out there for 3 or 4 hours with giant telescopic lenses on their cameras just to take pictures,
I would. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
it's like I've never seen a more expensive camera in my life, except for this time of year when there's like 5 of them.
Yeah.
But
Oh, so
yes,
cool.
it's just I don't know. Nature just has that way about it that you're at peace. Like I could be pissed off to the max and have a million things going on, and I go out there and I sit and I'm just like, you see nature going on, you see a deer in the forest, you see a fish jump, and you're just like,
Yeah.
why was that a big deal for me? Like look at what's around me, and it brings it right back because you got to appreciate the treasures around you.
The treasures around you. You nailed it.
Ties it right in, and I did not do that on purpose. I swear. All right. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk
Oh,
to me
it's
today. I
always
really
a
appreciate it.
pleasure. Always a pleasure. Good luck with the new channel. If you're watching and you haven't followed my friend Matt yet, he's a good soul, man. Give him some vibes. Give him the audience and attention he deserves for the good work he does.
I really appreciate that. I will again, everybody. I will have her socials and her website linked in the description, so you can go down there and drop her a follow and check her out and see exactly more of what we've been talking about today. So, all right. Try and have a great rest of your day. We'll talk later.
You too, friend.
Bye.